Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the Ummahpreneur podcast. Today I have with me such a special guest. I'm so excited to bring to you today. I won't lie to you guys. This guest has been on my radar for quite a while, and I personally have been wanting to bring him on for over a year now. Since we started the podcast, he was one of my guests that I've been following, I've been really paying attention to, and mashallah, getting so much benefit from. And for me to have this opportunity today, I want to tell you guys, for me, I'm just extremely grateful to be able to do this. So Jazakallah khair for joining me, brother Shaqir Hussyin. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, brother. What's up?
How are you, man?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very good. And congratulations on all of your recent success. I see lots of people saying good things about yourself. So well done.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, brother. And for people who don't know who you are, I'm going to give you just a quick intro. Brother Shaqir here, he's the founder of wealthacademy.com. He's the founder of funnels.com. He's a multiple 8-figure entrepreneur, mashallah. He's generated over 30 million before being 30 years old, which is an absolute amazing achievement, mashallah. He's also an investor in 50 plus companies. He's been featured on Forbes. He has an email list of over 1 million subscribers. And I could keep going on and on, but I just want to tell you guys that this here is going to be a masterclass of a podcast. All right. So pay close attention, turn off whatever it is you're watching or listening to, and pay close attention to this today, because I'm going to dive deep with you, Shaqir. I'm going to really go in here and try to figure out the formula to success, what really makes you tick and makes you who you are. And what I've noticed over the years is that ultimately the difference between successful entrepreneurs and those who are kind of still in the game and struggling and not really seeing the growth that they want to is not because of business strategy. It's not because of tactic. It's not because of a specific thing or marketing funnel that they're getting wrong. But ultimately what really lies underneath all of that is their approach, their mindset, right? The way they approach business, the way they look at things. And I think the best place to start with you is I really want to understand your perspective. What for you has been the biggest change maker when it comes to your mindset, okay, in approaching business, going from someone who's just starting off to now being a multiple 8-figure entrepreneur?
Yeah. So, okay, where do I start with this? So, in terms of mindset, obviously it's a big topic, right? Like the kind of overarching way I look at mindset is it's a mental model. And that mental model is based around, the beliefs, the habits, the routines, the systems that I've developed or that anyone can develop. There's nothing special about me, right? Like I basically did some things different, like say, for example, when I was going to university, my friends went to university, they got a job, they got a 9-to-5 job, they spent 10 years. I just did one or two things different. And then it pivoted me into this world of online marketing, right? And then as I was doing online marketing, I started coming across different people. And I think what happens is when you get new information, a model is you see it for what it is and you're like, okay, good for him. There's another model, which is, oh yeah, whatever, I could never do that. And then there's another model, which is there's nothing special about him or her. If they can do it, so can I. How do I go and model that, right? And so that's kind of been my thinking since my early 20s. And I think once I grasped onto, if it's possible for someone else to do, then I can do it. Because see, what happened was, you've probably heard of this saying, and it's like a cliche, you become the average of the 5 people that you hang around with. So when I was getting started in this industry, I would, be around my friends, family, and they said, go to school, go to college, get a job, get a degree, work in Canary Wharf, get an office job, whatever, all of those things. And I remember being invited to one of these live events in person in London and then one in America. And then when I went to these events, I saw people that were making millions of dollars. I met one guy, I was 21, I was dead broke, from East London. There's another guy from East London, and he was 27 years old and he was making up to $100,000 per day. Now, 12, 13 years ago, absolutely no one was making that sort of money. And for me, making 100 grand a year was a lot of money. And now I see this guy and I'm like, how is this even possible, right? So anyway, like long story short, when I met this guy, the next day I dropped out of university. I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm like, whatever this guy is doing, I'm going to figure it out. And against my friends and family's wishes, against everyone said, everyone's advising, what are you doing? You're in your final year. I was like, no, I met this guy. He's making a lot of money. He seems to live this crazy lifestyle. And I want to basically follow suit. And I'm just going to figure it out. And so it is an element of being open-minded and then taking calculated risk or taking a risk, because most people they're so afraid of, if it doesn't work, if I fail, what is this or what is he or she going to think of me, right? And so I think from what I've seen, and in my last decade or so, I've coached quite a few, tens of thousands of people actually now, in person, offline, online, all of that. And I've seen these are some of the qualities. The people that kind of tend to go forward really fast is they're able to process different concepts and not get stuck in that procrastination mode.
Definitely. And one thing that you mentioned, well, it seems like you were already wired to be a very quick action taker. You're telling me I met this guy next day, I made this life-altering decision to quit school and embark on this new path. Would you say that generally in business you're the same? Are you someone who, as soon as you see a better way of doing things, as soon as you see strategy, you're like just all in?
I mean, I remember very clearly doing construction work with my dad, because I was going to work to become a plumber and an electrician, right? In London, in the UK, about 12, 15 years ago, there was this boom. Like electricians and plumbers were getting paid more than teachers. And I was like, that's my path. I'm going to do this, right? And I was like, I don't know, maybe 16, 17, 18 years old. And as I was working in my dad's construction site, I remember very clearly reading Think and Grow Rich. And it said, like, this book has been responsible for creating more millionaires than ever. And I was like, okay, I'm going to read this book cover to cover, and I'm going to implement exactly what it said. And almost all of the things that it said, like writing your goals out, affirmations, walking around, making sure that you're clear of your definitive purpose, having the discipline, the routines. I mean, I started doing this and I was dead broke. And I remember reading the book, The Secret. You remember The Secret?
Yes, the law of attraction.
Law of attraction. Dude, I remember reading that. And 1 week later, I get an invitation to go and volunteer for a T.R. Eka seminar. Do you know who T.R. Eka is?
I have no idea.
Okay, he's like a mini Tony Robbins.
Okay,
he's like older than Tony Robbins, and he was like he's big in the US. He was huge in the UK.
Okay,
and I remember like going to his event and thinking, "Wow, I dropped out of university, and then I read the Law of Attraction. I read Think and Grow Rich, and now I'm attending his seminar that show like it was called like 5 days to becoming a millionaire or something crazy, right?" And I was like, "This is it. This is meant to be." Obviously, it took me more than 5 days to become a millionaire, but mashallah, when I look back at those things, I'm like, wow, it is because I took massive action. And a lot of the times when you're starting off in business or you're trying to grow, a lot of the anxiety, the procrastination disappears if you can just take enough action. If you pack your calendar with action taking activities, a lot of the, stuff that holds most people back, it just disappears because you're so focused on moving the needle, doing activities that moving the needle.
Now, it's interesting that you say that because I've been in business for over 5 years now. And, one thing that I've noticed is I'm very much an action taker. I'm always taking action. I'm always, really kind of intense. Like, let's see how much we can pack into the day. And what I'm recently noticing, and I don't know if this is a personal bias or anything, but what I'm really noticing is that one thing that I was lacking in my life that was kind of keeping me stuck is also having a bit of that balance between, yes, being all in on the business, but also nurturing myself in my other areas of life to be able to have the energy to constantly show up, at the highest level possible. Now, for you, was there a moment in life where you felt like you had to make a certain adjustment in how you approached all the areas of your life, or even how you approach your business, from the sense of, well, am I going 100% or am I maybe going, 80% there or 70% and then devoting 20% to family, 20% to friends, 20% to faith, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. So I've always been, my parents, my mom always said, like, whatever you do, you need to be praying 5 times a day. You need to be making sure like Islam is first. And so alhamdulillah, I've kept that in mind almost all throughout my 20s. And in terms of balance, not the first 2-3 years, this is from what I remember. Okay. So remember, I've been doing this for like 13 years, right?
Yeah.
The first 3 years, I don't think I took a single day off. And I was 21. It took me 9 months to wrap my head around what is internet marketing. My first year, I made 120K. My second year, I made 275K. My third year, I made $1.2 million. And mashallah, that was the start. Right. And then I realized, okay, the next year I doubled it, 2.4 million, blah, blah, blah. And as I was growing this, and mashallah, I grew for 9 years consecutively, like almost every single year, boom, 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 double, 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 double. And when I look back, it wasn't because I was working hard. In the first probably 3 to 5 years, I worked very hard just because, and plus, I was single. I didn't have anything else other than business, travel around the world, enjoy myself, speak on stage, get customers, do events, get customers, sell masterminds, sell courses, sell coaching. That was kind of the spin that I took. And so, as for balance, I think it's what it is. Like, look, today it's nearly 4 o'clock in the UK. Okay. I just spent the last 90 minutes in the gym. Before that, I spent like 2 hours in a spa, getting whatever, sauna, jet ski, bath, whatever. Usually I do like cryotherapy every single day, water massage often. So these days I spend a lot more time, sometimes even 3-4 hours, just like self-care, self-love, whatever, like trying to be healthy, focusing on clean eating, eating good, spending time gym with my trainer, boxing, all of this stuff. In the earlier days, it wasn't like that. I just tell you straight up, because I know some people will be like, oh yeah, you need to have balance. I'm like, from an Islamic perspective, yes, you need to have balance. I just remember I didn't have a lot of balance because I was so focused on just growth, right? And I think there's a level of sacrifice that you need to have. I remember learning something like, if you don't sacrifice for what you want becomes the sacrifice, right? So it's like, I know, hey, like today I could go spend the whole day in central London, but I know if I get 3 to 4 podcasts done, it will move my business a certain way, right? So that's a sacrifice that I'm making. And every day you get to choose what sacrifices you're making. So I believe, family, friends, religion, number one. And then in terms of business, investing, learning, all of this stuff, it can come afterwards. But again, you wanna, how should I say, you wanna have, again, this is the advice that I give to my coaching clients, right? Which is, get yourself 100K to 250K cash, whatever, 6 months, 12 months, 3 years of living expenses covered, so that you're not having to operate from a place of scarcity. You can actually have balance. You can actually focus on, let me actually balance. Let me, instead of spending 30 minutes in the gym, you can spend an hour in the gym, right? Instead of like rushing your food in 5 minutes, you can spend half an hour eating your food. In the earlier days, I didn't do none of that.
Yeah.
Okay. I know I didn't do any of that.
Would you credit that to your success? The fact that you didn't, the fact that you kind of really went all in and just, pushed through, like you had that as your main focus. You were laser focused on your business, and that was what allowed you to set up the baseline to then make room for everything else.
Yeah. I mean, everything comes from Allah. Okay, so all praise to Allah. Everything comes from Allah. So that's first and foremost. Second is, I basically was all in. I mean, I just lived and breathed my brands, the promotions, nonstop. Everyone that I met, I spoke to them about what I do. I pitched everyone, and these are the habits that you develop, right? It's like, I'm in the gym the other day, guy's telling me he's got a business, he's driving around in a Ferrari, wears a fancy watch. My gym is more of a private members club kind of gym, right? And so it's like, I can tell that this guy spends a lot of money. He hires the same trainer as I got, and I'm like, okay, this guy's like, he's got money. And one of my relatives who is just starting his marketing agency, he was next to me and he was listening to me talking, and he replied back with, he's like, man, you're so intense in your business, and then you're so intense working out, and then you're so intense when you're having a conversation with someone. And I was just in the other room taking notes because you're going to close that guy. And I was like, maybe. I mean, but whether I close him, I don't care. But if I close him, that's great. If I don't close him, that's okay as well. The sheer fact, mashallah, is because I've developed the skill set, right? So that because I've developed the skill set of marketing, persuasion, copywriting, influence, now I can go and sell and market myself or any products and services because I understand how to sell. And so now I can offer a service, whether it's, $5 grand a month or 20 grand a month. I can offer that to someone that can afford it. Does that make sense? And it's like,
100%.
I look at that and I'm like, wow, mashallah. Now, it didn't come overnight because I learned these skills and then I stacked these skills, right? So one of the
Yeah.
things, what I see with entrepreneurs, especially when they're stuck and they're not making the kind of money, is because it's a lack of skill acquisition. So if you're here and you're trying to get to, this level, what's in the middle is basically skills. And maybe it's one skill, maybe it's three skills. And most entrepreneurs, they're looking for a shiny trick or a system or something, but they haven't developed the core skill sets, right? So
100%.
I'm ranting on this.
No, dude, I love what you're saying. And I really resonate with it because, again, I'm an entrepreneur myself. And with Ummahpreneur, there's, inshallah, so many things that we want to achieve and do for the Muslim Ummah, for Muslim entrepreneurs. And, throughout this path, myself as the CEO and founder, I always recognize, well, there are gaps that I have to fill within myself and my own skills and my own abilities, that once I fill, that will be the only time that we will be able to kind of break through and reach that next level. And one question that I do have for you, just to kind of piggyback off what you just said, is, a lot of people look at entrepreneurs like yourself, that, alhamdulillah and mashallah, have been able to kind of witness and go through that consecutive growth year over year, while many entrepreneurs as well, as you mentioned, are kind of stuck in a certain position and they're trying to break through and they're not seeing that breakthrough. Now, I want to ask you, because one thing that I do want to give to my audience and listeners is, a lot of entrepreneurs feel like, hey, if I'm not at the point where my business has made like a million within, the first 3 years of launch or the first 2 years of launch, like all these other entrepreneurs that I'm seeing out there, then I am a failure, right? What I'm doing isn't working. There's something wrong with me internally. I want to ask you, for someone at your level, have you ever felt that way within your own business, within your own journey? And what have you done if you felt that way? Like, what for you has been like the solution to that, right? And what would you say to people who feel that way? Yeah.
It's funny because I felt like that yesterday, right? Like, oh, my friends are doing better. I have a friend who's a Canadian brother, actually. And mashallah, he's doing amazingly well. He's doing over $100,000, probably 120 grand a day in his business.
Mashallah.
Okay. So mashallah, he just told me like, $3.5 million in a single month. And it's funny because even today I was telling my wife, and I said, he's the same age as me, right? So everyone has this, right? This is how just human beings are wired. We compare and we want what we can't have. We look for others. You can make £10,000 a month, $10,000 a month. It's a lot of money for most people. You can also make $100,000 a month. Do you see someone making $1 million a month or $3 million a month? You're going to feel like, especially because, if you're listening to this, then I'm guessing you're a high performer, you want to be an entrepreneur or you are an entrepreneur. And so naturally you are not wired to be like everyone else, right? Like you already have an open mind. You're like, what's possible? If it's possible, I'm going to go out, I'm going to go get it. So naturally what happens is you're going to see other people do amazing things. But if you're always comparing yourself to the next person, then you're operating from a place of fear, lack, and insecurity. And that can drive you. It drove me for many years. It drove me. One of my first early mentors, he was 1 year older than me, and he mentored me for about 5 years. And in his business, he had grown it from, $1 million to $10 million to $100 million a year. So for about 4 or 5 years, he was mentoring me almost on a daily basis. Right. And I saw this guy, go from like 1 or 2 people all the way up to like 400, 450 employees. Right. And so I would always compare myself to, oh my gosh, this mentor or this friend. So I totally understand, where you're at. And maybe you're going through this in the same manner. Something I learned which really helped me. And I don't know if you can see on my bookshelf, this one over here, this bookshelf, this one here.
Yeah.
It's by a Canadian gentleman his name is Dan Sullivan, and he runs this company called Strategic Coach, right? And he charges, $10,000, $25,000 for this program. So I paid him 25 grand, spent like 1 day with him. I think he's now 77 or 78 years old. Wow. And he teaches you different frameworks to think through things. Okay. And one of the frameworks he taught me, and I learned this in my early 20s, which really snapped me out of that thinking, which was, instead of looking how far you need to get to, Because see, as soon as you think, oh my gosh, I've got 10 things to do, or this person is doing so well, or this person or she and he has 1 million followers on Instagram and 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and I don't have that, immediately you're operating from a place of lack. And so what happens is you're telling yourself, you're telling your subconscious mind that there's not enough, there's not enough. And what happens is you'll attract based on that. Versus if you focus on abundance, then you shift from scarcity to abundance. So how do you do that? Each day you wake up, and he made us do this exercise and it really helped. Okay, so if you're listening to this, make note of this, right? And the exercise,
I'm taking notes. Let's go.
Filling the gap, right? Filling the gap. So you wake up each day and you write down where you were to where you are right now. And I drove probably the first 5 or 6 years of my business, probably the first $10 million in sales that I made when I was around 26 years old, all came from that fear, insecurity, needing to prove everyone, like showing off, like ego, blah, blah, blah. I invested in so many different companies, lost a ton of money, made a bunch of money, like all of that stuff. And when I look back at like making money and then losing money, one of the key ingredients was I was operating from a place of scarcity versus abundance. And as soon as you shift from scarcity, there's not enough to abundance, now you have a complete different world that you can operate from. So I would basically, on my whiteboard, in my house, I would write down, hey, at 19 years old, I was doing construction work. At 21 years old, I didn't even know what an autoresponder was. And then, by the time I was 25, I was basically, generating hundreds of thousands of subscribers on my email list. So when I look at that, now what I'm doing is I'm filling in the gap. Does that make sense? So every single day I'm waking up with seeing how much progress I've already made versus how far I need to go to. And that really helped shift my mindset into abundance creation of abundance.
When you mentioned that, you said where you are to where you are right now. I think you made like a little wordplay. Did you mean where you started to where you are right now, or was it where you started to where you want to go? What are the 2 points that you should evaluate?
Again, just like 5 points of achievements.
Okay.
Right. So just like 5 big things that you've achieved. So, and again, this works if you're ever feeling down, if you're ever feeling depressed, if you're ever feeling sad and lonely. This is probably the most powerful advice I can give you as a millionaire mentor. And it is, write down a series of 1, 2, maybe 10 wins, 10 wins that have happened in your life. And sometimes it could be just one. Hey, I did something with my family. That's one, and it's good enough for you. But if you write down 10, or if you write down 20, what happens is now, every time you feel bad about yourself, you feel sad, depressed, lonely, filled with anxiety, you can go back and be like, wow, here's 10 things that shows and proves that I'm a winner. Right? And to supercharge this each day before you go to sleep, and this is again another exercise that I learned from this man, is like 77, 78 years old, Dan Sullivan, which he said, before you go to sleep, write down 3 wins. So guess what happens? Instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't do my to-do list, instead of thinking, oh, I didn't get anything done, you're going to sleep reaffirming to yourself, here's my 3 wins for the day. And guess what happens? If you say, hey, here's my 3 wins for the day, here's my 3 wins for the day. After 100 days, that's 300 wins. You're going to feel, talk, act like a winner. Right? If you think, talk, act like a winner, then your actions are going to show, your results are going to be much better than the previous 100 days. So that's a really powerful exercise one can do.
Dude, I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that, Shaqir. Truly, this was absolutely phenomenal. Like we're just getting right now, like, thank you, because you've just given us for free what you paid 25 grand for. I just wanted to share my gratitude for that. That's awesome.
35 grand.
This podcast is officially worth over 35 grand, guys. Please take notes. I love it. Mashallah. Jazakallah khair for that. One question that I have for you as well, to follow up on what you just said, is for you specifically in the beginning of the days of your journey. A lot of our listeners are in those early stages of business. What were some rituals, routines, or habits that you implemented that you, looking back, you really feel like, man, doing this at that time really helped propel me or set me in the right state of mind to work on my business and get to where I am today? And I know they change all the time, right? So yeah.
I'm just going to spin this off. And again, you take whatever works for you. Okay, number one, I'd pray, and then I'd always go and tell my mom and dad to pray deeply for my success, right? And so that's like number one. That's probably the first habit that I developed. And at the time my grandma was alive, so I'd always tell my grandma, I started a business, you need to pray for me, you need to pray for me, you need to pray for it to become successful. Number two, I started developing habits and routines. These habits and routines were such things such as I would go and ask for a sale. I would not be afraid of being rejected once, 10, 100 times. It's okay, because I knew the more no's that I get, it's just getting me closer to a yes. Once I developed and embraced that mindset, I was like, wow, this is sick. It doesn't matter if people say no, maybe it means not yet. But if I get 10 no's and one person says yes, then that means from 100 no's, I'm going to close 10 people saying yes. So that was like a mindset that just happened, right? Like I developed it, and I was like, this is sick. And, I sucked at sales. So I started reading books, started listening to audio programs. And I started incorporating, and again, these are things I don't really share, but I'm going to share this with you because I feel like if your audience is new, hopefully this can really help them. At the time, I used to use trains or underground tube stations, right? I'm sure you have them in Canada or wherever your listeners are listening in from. And then there was buses. And then for like £1, maybe $1 or $2 extra, you can use something called like an overground train. Now, usually the overground train was used by business people, by people that were a little bit more affluent, maybe, or it was maybe convenient for them. But in my mind, I was like, hey, there's 4 forms of transport: walking, buses, trains, and basically the overground station. Now, I could not even afford taxis. So we're not going to talk about taxis, Ubers, private chauffeurs, none of that. So I would start putting myself into these environments where, I would look around and people would be dressed differently, right? And so I started dressing differently, and because I started dressing differently, so I could carry myself differently. And I would see, hey, I would start developing a different habit. And I would tell myself, like, I want to be around these people because they seem like high earners. Another thing I would do is, because I went through so much personal development, is I would have, I don't even know if I have it with me. Actually, I do. It's on my table. But if I had money with me, I'd always carry a £50 note. So maybe in Canada, you have like $100 note. So I'd always carry a £50 note. And this note, I'd never spend it, but I always keep it. Why? Because I wanted, every time I reached into my pocket, I wanted to know, hey, I have some money. Okay. And I have money that I could, spend in a day or a week. And it also embedded and condition my mind to think abundantly, because I'd think to myself, hey, you know what? Instead of looking at people that had like $1 million or they were making 100 grand a year or 10 million a year, I'd look at the people that had absolutely nothing. So sometimes I would watch YouTube videos of like, people in Syria or in, Iraq, people that were in really bad situation. And I think to myself, man, I have the internet, I have roof, I have shelter, I have a family, they're all alive, mashallah. Like I have everything. What the heck is, like, if I can't make this work, like think about this, right? Sometimes I hear, and again, being just very direct, sometimes people will complain about the most useless things. Like, well, I don't know how to do, post on Instagram. I don't know how to do this. Or I don't know, I'm so scared of asking for a sale. Are you bloody kidding me? Go and see people in third world countries that don't have Wi-Fi. Right? They can't even have the pleasure and the privilege of having a Facebook profile. Here you are, you could add 20 people a day on Facebook, literally message all 20 people a day, start having conversations with 20 people a day. At the end of the month, 2 times 360, you've now had 600 conversations. Even if you are the worst salesperson on the planet, you could close 6 sales, 6 people at $1,000, at $5,000, and make yourself $6,000 to $30,000 a month, selling absolutely anything. It doesn't matter, right? Yeah. But most people would rather make an excuse that will hold them back. And so for me, I was like, I compared myself to, the people in Bangladesh. My dad really put this thing through my head, right, as a kid, and he'd say, anyone can come to this country and work really hard, 10, 15 years, and become a millionaire. Okay. He'd always say that to me. And in my mind, I'd say to myself, even if it takes someone 10 to 20 years, I want to do it in 5 or 6 years. Because I've got these guys, called Tony Robbins and Jay Abraham, and I can learn from all these top guys that are basically dishing out their information for free a lot of the times on YouTube. And I would study, and mashallah, that's one of the mindsets I had, to go from 0 to $1 million in under 3 years from scratch. Another habit that I developed was, and this was a little bit of a weird one, but it worked for me, which is, it's so funny to say this because I would walk around my parents' house saying, I'm now making $10,000 a month, right? And you know what? Mashallah, I hit it. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like in the morning, I would go for something called a power walk, like Tony Robbins would talk about. Basically, you walk and you listen to this audio, and you say what you're grateful for, and then you do affirmations and incantations. So I was like, I'm not making $10,000 a month. And as I hit 10 grand a month, then I was like, okay, I need to do this thing to 50 grand a month. And I did it, mashallah, I made $50,000 a month. Then I did it to $100,000 a month. I kid you not, bro, mashallah, alhamdulillah. Yeah. I did the same incantation to all the way up to $1 million a month. Wow, by the time I was 28 years old, I was in Saudi Arabia with my parents. Mashallah, I was doing Hajj with my mom and dad. And I had my first ever $1 million month. Yeah, I think it was Hajj or Umrah. But I had my first $1 million month whilst I was in Saudi Arabia, with my parents and my best friend. And it was like, wow, like 21 to 28 years old. And so like these habits, again, they work for me. I don't know if it's going to work for you or not. Another one was, and again, I don't want this to come across like I'm boasting or bragging. So please, it's not meant to do that, right? It's meant to like give you the habits that I developed.
Yeah, please keep going, man. I'm taking notes, and I'm going to have to listen to this and apply everything. But please,
even when I didn't have the money, I would go and act abundantly, which means give as much charity. Or I would go to the shop. And this used to hurt me so much because I was like, I remember being so broke, and I'd pay like £1 for a bottle of water, and the water was like say 60 or 80p, and I tell the guy, please keep the change, because I was trying to train my mind for abundance. And I would walk out of the shop, and then I would think to myself, oh man, why do I pay 20p or 40p? Like, why do I like pay 50p or 50 cent extra for that water? Then I'd say to myself, Shaq, this is part of abundance. And another one that I developed was I would be around where rich people were. Okay. So I would wear a suit, I would wear a nice shirt. Sometimes I would find like designer outlets online. I remember my first suit was like 40 pounds, dude. It's literally $50. It was like a Ted Baker suit. It didn't even fit me, bro. But I wore that thing because I felt good, right? And I wore this Ted Baker suit with some oversized shoes, and I would go to Mayfair. And I'm sure like you have fancy places in Toronto and Canada. Every country in the world, doesn't matter where you live, you'll have nice areas. And these nice areas, you don't have to be special or rich or powerful. You can be in those areas, right? You could go to a nice coffee shop. You could go to fancy hotels. So in London, there's like hotels like Four Seasons and the Dorchester and the Grosvenor Hotel, which, JW Marriott. These hotels exist all over your country. In any state, go, right? There's always these hotels. And I would go to these hotels. And I actually made a video of this on my YouTube channel the other day. I would go to these hotels and I would order the cheapest thing on the menu, which was what? Mint tea. Okay, I don't drink alcohol. I'm not going to buy expensive food because I can't afford it, but I could afford a cup of mint tea. And I remember, I would have mint tea, and that now makes me a customer of the hotel premises. So now I get their Wi-Fi access, and I would literally sit there for hours and hours working, trying to learn internet marketing, looking around at the people. If there was someone there that looked half friendly, I'd go and approach them and start talking to them. Hey, what do you do? What business are you in? And I'd start seeing them, talk about different things. And sometimes, not sometimes, mashallah, more than a few times, they, people did invite me. They were very, very wealthy. I remember one guy I met, kind of like doing the same thing that I'm just saying, going to an event, going to a hotel, meeting him. And then, he invited me to his penthouse, and it was like a 7 million pound penthouse, like a $10 million penthouse, right? In Mayfair. And then we became friends, and he had a, fancy Range Rover. And I'm like, this is crazy. Subhanallah, I just realized, and now, mashallah, I drive a Range Rover, and I've been living in a penthouse for the last, 8 years. So, but when I was around that, I was completely broke. Like there was no reason for anyone to give me any time or energy, except for the fact that I came across, or I did my best to have good energy, right? And so that's like something that people can't grasp their head around. Just because they're broke or they're struggling, or they may be overweight, or they're not happy in the relationship, in their business, they're not getting the results. They now portray this toxicity in all parts of the life. But just because this happens doesn't mean that you need to act it out, right? Just because it happens, you could compartmentalize that and then say to yourself, hey, let me focus on what I can control, which is your thoughts, your actions, your thinking, your attitude. And I promise you, even if you are struggling, you're broke, you have nothing to your name, but you have a great attitude, you know how to smile well, you know how to confidently have a conversation, guess what people will do? People of higher value will come in and connect with you. And so that helped me a lot. Another thing that really helped me was I learned this technique from wherever on the internet, DHV, demonstrating higher value. Okay. And what that means is like making sure that you develop skills where when you're around people, someone will look at you and say, they don't even have to say, they can just sense this person has high value, right? Because we all want to be around people that have high value. So imagine now, I just met you, and the first thing you're trying to do is just take from me. Versus if you just said something like, hey, I spent the last 3 years of my life reading like 20 different sales books, and I've made 500 sales calls, and I would really love it if you could give me an opportunity. You see the difference between that versus, hey man, I saw you, make a bunch of money online. Can you mentor me for free?
It's like, of course,
And so what I find, and I have, mashallah, so many people that will, reach out to me, and sometimes they'll say, hey, can you help me? Can you help me for free? And I'm like, I don't know you. You have no value to add to me. I think 2 days ago, a brother found me through a late friend of mine, Sheikh Mohammed Al-Sharif from Canada, from Dubai. So he was a very good friend of mine, and alhamdulillah, he passed away. He's gone back to Allah now. And so this brother messaged me and he's like, hey, I just saw you in this group, and here's a little bit about me. And he's like, I've spent $30,000 on courses. I've done, 100 grand in sales. I've done XYZ. I'm an ex-engineer from Toronto, Canada, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, hey, make me a 6-minute video. Made me the video on point, very professional, not needy, not desperate, with good energy. And that's what I mean by good energy, right? A lot of the times you can get ahead in life if you develop good energy. One of the reasons why, the guy that was making $100,000 a day, he took me under his wing. Or the guy that had the $10 million penthouse, he took me under his wing. Or I can give you endless examples like this, right? Because alhamdulillah, Allah put this together. One of the reasons I strongly believe is because I carried good energy, right? So when I'm there, I'm not just trying to think, how can I take, what can they give me, versus, hey, how can I add value to everyone that I speak to? Even if I have no value, let me show up from that perspective. Anyway, those were a few habits that really helped me. You wanted to go?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you sharing that. And mashallah, like just as you're talking, I personally will have to replay this episode in my own spare time and just focus on taking notes and applying everything you're sharing, because so many of the things you're sharing are so true. And I've heard them said by a lot of other highly successful people as well. But really, it's interesting because we know these things to be true. We see other people applying them and gaining success with them, but we don't apply them ourselves, right? We still don't apply them ourselves.
It's too simple. It's too simple. So the mind wants to fool you, right? The mind is like, no, it's too simple. Of course, that's not going to work. But it's the simple things that work, right? It's like, like recently, mashallah, I've lost nearly 15 pounds. Okay, so I'm
looking good, bro.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm on this weight loss. I feel good, alhamdulillah. I'm in the gym almost every single day, 5, 6, 7 times a week. I have a trainer, all of this stuff, right? And then yesterday, I met this brother. Yesterday or the day before, I met this brother actually in the masjid. Okay, and he's also, mashallah, a large size guy. Okay, a big size guy, like me. Okay, so. But he's a little bit bigger than me. And he just looked at me and he went, what did you do? And how did you lose all the weight? You need to help me. Oh, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to the gym, this and that. And then when I got in the car, I was like, what did I actually do? Mashallah, my wife helped me with some bone broth and whatever, right? Kicks out my detox. But what did I really do? I ate less and I worked out every day. There's nothing else, bro.
That's
There's
it.
no magic potion that I took. There's no pill. There's no extra juice fast that I'm taking, right? Like there's nothing else. I just eat less and I work out more every single day. And mashallah, I've lost like 12 to 15 pounds now, right? So it's the simple things, right? But so then, like, why didn't I understand or do this over the last 10 years? It's because even if I bought gym memberships, but I'd never attended the gym, right? Or I paid for trainers and I was like, oh, this trainer is so hard. I don't want to ever go back and see him. So I'd not show up at the gym, right? Or I had like bad habits. And so I strongly believe that if you can build the routines, disciplines, habits, even if they're simple and they're overused, and you've heard so many people say this over again, you should journal, 10, 15 minutes each day. Start off with gratitude, be focused on sales and marketing versus how good do you look for your Instagram and your social media to get likes and stuff, versus focus on how much money is coming into your bank account every single day. Because if that doesn't work, you could make more money working in your local restaurant, working as an Uber driver. And there's nothing wrong with either of those. But a lot of the times people want to be an entrepreneur because it sounds cool. But most entrepreneurs that I speak to, that my team speaks to, they don't even make a full-time income. They'd make more money if they were in their job. And so you have to really get your priorities in order. And how you do that is you have to identify what is a low value activity and what is the high value activity. You have to figure out what is an activity that's going to pay $10 an hour versus an activity that's going to pay $100 an hour versus an activity that's going to pay you $1,000 an hour. So fixing things on a website, answering your emails, checking and scrolling on social media every single day, that is a $10 per hour activity. Watching other people's YouTube videos endlessly, mindlessly, this is a $10 per hour activity. Gossiping, watching Netflix, watching TV soaps and series, this is a $10 or minus $10 per hour activity. Doing things like learning how to do social media marketing, building new skills, this is $100 to $500 per hour activity. If you start learning how to run sales funnels, how to do paid traffic, how to optimize for conversions, how to do webinars, how to make sales presentations, this is $1,000 per hour activity. And as you grow and as you focus on high leverage activities, then you're able to do stuff like speak on people's podcasts, speak on people's stage, do JV opportunities where you can make $10,000 in a day or $50,000 a day or $100,000 in a day. And as you progress through that, you start hiring people that can do low leverage activities, and that will give you space and focus to focus on the highest priority activities that will yield the maximum results. Therefore, your confidence will grow, your capabilities will grow, your internal self-esteem and confidence will rise up. Therefore, you will start attracting more people of that caliber. This is why the rich people get richer, poor people get poorer. You could take my money away and guess what? Inshallah, give me 6 months, 12 months, I'd still make it back all over again. And I've done that plenty of times. So I have no doubt. And the reason is because I have developed these habits, these, secret methods, mind hacks that I've shared here openly with you guys to elevate my results at a rapid pace. And I strongly believe anyone from any background, if they apply even 10% of the stuff that I've shared here today, they can fast track and supercharge their success instantly. There's no doubt. And I've seen people, I've literally just had a guy message me 3 days ago on my WhatsApp saying, hey, Shaq, just want to let you know, I just had my first $1.6 million month with $600,000 net profit. So I know, and I've seen firsthand how powerful this stuff is and how it changes people's lives.
Yeah, mashallah. I really appreciate you sharing that, brother. And I know, man, there's so much more that I want to ask you, bro. So much more that we'll dive into, and I want to really just unpack everything. But I know there's so much we can talk about, and I want to respect your time as well. I know you're working on a few businesses right now. You have Wealth Academy, you have funnels. What is your main focus right now? And I know you have an opportunity for entrepreneurs that could potentially tap into to inshallah get your support, get your help, get your coaching or mentorship or guidance. So can you share with us just some information about what you're working on? And for our listeners, is there any place that they can go to get some more help from you, right? At a higher level?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been writing an email newsletter for over 8+ years now. It's the daily newsletter that goes out. Mashallah, I've generated over 1.5 million subscribers. So in the earlier days, it was tough, but then as I started picking up momentum, so the best place to find if you're a brand new entrepreneur, you're thinking of starting to get into business, or you already have a business and you want to grow it, would be to funnels.com. So it's funnels.com. funnels.com. And if you're on the newsletter, then every now and then I do a 5-day live challenge. salesfunnelschallenge.com. Otherwise, go to funnels.com, watch one or two of our videos. Make sure you book a phone call with someone from our team. We'll identify, assess where you're at in your business right now, whether you want to start a business. We'll show you which business model is right for you. Maybe you can become a consultant, a coach, a course creator, or maybe you already have a business or you have an idea and now you want to take it to the next level with implementation. I have a full team, an agency that can help with the setup and even driving traffic and leads to your business. So head over to funnels.com and check us out over there.
Awesome. I will make sure to include the link in the episode notes, guys. So go and check that out. Go and make sure to sign up to the video and watch what he has to share with you. And make sure to book a call with that team, as you've seen here. Within the last 30, 40 minutes, I think I've already gotten maybe 5 pages worth of notes that I'm going to have to go back and re-listen to and apply. So I just want to share my gratitude for you for making the time to get on here. I know your schedule is really busy, and for you to make the time to come on here, especially for the fact that, you're sharing this information so selflessly with budding Muslim entrepreneurs who are on this journey as well, who want to achieve success in entrepreneurship. That means a lot, not just to me, but to everyone listening that will benefit from this. So really, Jazakallah khair for this, Shaqir. This was an absolute phenomenal podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Jazakallah khair for having me, and keep us in your du'as. That's the secret weapon of the believers, as Prophet Muhammad said. So Jazakallah khair for the opportunity, and I will catch up with you soon, brother.
Yeah, definitely. Jazakallah khairan. And you guys know the drill. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Leave us a review and make sure to go check out funnels.com and go and sign up and make sure to take advantage of this email list and services that Shaqir is offering. I can attest to his value and the services that he offers myself. Please go and check it out and make sure to sign up. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.